everyone. Welcome, welcome. I'm Kevin, and with me is Joe. But while we wait to get started, I think we've got a few polls that we want to put out. But everyone take their time. We're going to give a few minutes for everyone to join, to get settled. We still have some folks trickling in here, so.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to launch a poll. If you've been on Zoom calls before, you have done this at the bottom of your screen or the middle of your screen. It will pop up. We just want to get an idea of who's joining us. So what grad year? So if you're a rising senior, you'd be class of 26, rising junior, 27, and so on. Or if you're, in college as well. So let me launch that. You should see it now. Oh, no, that's who are you? That's all right. Find out who this is first. This is good.
It's mostly parents.
Yeah, that's good.
That's awesome.
Thank you for putting 26 in the chat. Appreciate it. There will be a poll though in a second. I wonder if I can do two actually. Let's see.
Do it at the same time.
Students
We have
grade.
everyone in here yet? I still have some folks maybe trickling in. All right. So while you launch the other poll, just very quick about us. I don't know if anyone's been following us. I'm sure some of you are have been on a bunch of our presentations. If it's your first time joining us, welcome. We are College Aid Pro, and I'm going to screen share, but we're here to help families save money on college. We're here to help families shop smarter, and we're here to help families with this entire process. So our main goal is to make sure everyone leaves here well informed, knowing more, and feels better prepared for the college planning process. Now, I'm sure, Joe, if you want to spend a couple minutes introducing yourself, I'm sure everyone would want to kind of hear about yourself, and I can spend a minute
Yeah.
talking about me.
Yep. Sounds good. Appreciate it, Kevin. And thanks for everyone for completing the polls quickly. It's like a horse race, and
Yeah, I see
class of
it.
2026 is far in the lead.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, majority of you are rising seniors. Our parents are rising seniors. So you are in the thick of it right now. So thank you for joining us. And for our 27s and class of 28, you're getting a great head start. You're going to have a lot of information for you as well. My name is Joe Korfmacher. I have been doing college advising and admissions counseling for 15 years. I spent 10 years on the high school side. For anyone here that may be from New Jersey, I was a school counselor and college counselor at St. Peter's Prep in Jersey City for a few years. And then I was a college counselor and director of college counseling at Xavier High School in Manhattan for about 7 years there. I ran a boot camp for essays for rising seniors for a bunch of years. And then I was with CollegeWise, another company that helps families through the college admissions process for 5 years as an advisor there, and happy to join the College Aid Pro team. And I'll be back on in a few minutes to kind of just walk through where you should be at now, regardless of what year you are, and just sort of an overview of what colleges will be looking for during the admissions process. But thanks for joining us, and thanks for doing the poll.
So obviously Joe is going to be talking about admissions tonight. And, I skipped over this, but tonight we're basically going to share with you what you need to have done right away, right? So we're kind of leading up to the Common App opening. We're leading up to students starting to fill out their college applications. So that's one of our main things tonight. And then we're also going to talk about financial aid, which is the part of the process that I do. And just real quick, I'm Kevin Murphy. I'm one of the college financial aid experts here at College Aid Pro. I've been doing this since 2018. I got into the industry from financial services, and I like college financial aid way more than financial services, and really focus on this completely now. And I'm in New Jersey too, as is Joe. And fortunately, I've worked with a lot of families, so I don't think there's anything that I haven't seen. So feel free to try and stump us with the Q&A. Feel free to ask some questions during the presentation. We will do the best we can to answer, but sometimes questions require a little bit more of a detailed conversation, and we will explain how you can meet with us very quickly. So yeah, that's enough about me, enough about you. I think we should just jump into the presentation. So here we go.
And before you get going, Kevin, I got everyone putting in where they're from. And We got a couple of people from Jersey, so a couple of friends here. But yeah, all over Arizona, Massachusetts, Connecticut, San Antonio, Florida, Texas. So
All
very good.
over the country.
Love it.
Oh, we'll say for questions, please put them in the Q&A, not in the chat. Helps us stay on track. But all right. Can you see my screen? We're good to go?
Yep. Yep. This one, me or you?
You.
You got it. All right. So again, thanks for joining us. And real quickly, just to kind of start, it's the process to apply college has changed, greatly since I went to college in 2004. Since a lot of the parents on here, you were in college and you applied, and it has become much more of a business, of a game, and a maze. And we're here tonight, in part, just to show you that it doesn't need to be that complicated, and wanting to give you some straight up information that will help you that you can take from this presentation, and hopefully feel a little bit better when it's all said and done. And we're going to start. Every family will start on the left where it says 4,000 colleges. That's basically how many 4-year, 2-year colleges are in the country. We want to get to a point where you are applying to about 10 to 12 colleges that are the right academic fit, personal fit, financial fit, and we'll get you to a point where you have a final list of colleges that you are excited about, that all are ones that you will thrive at. And we want to make sure through the right strategy that you are, getting into enough of those colleges where you have choices, and that you feel for our rising seniors, late August of 2026, you feel ready to go, and go crush it in college for 4 years. So it definitely is a bit of a maze, but we're going to try and make it feel a little less confusing through tonight. So we can go next slide.
Absolutely.
All right. And just there we go. This is all coming up. Cool. All right. Look at that. Some fun there. All right. So mission strategy, scholarship strategy. Let's begin talking about building, a strategy to get into college, and, more importantly, to do it affordably. And that's always going to be a theme that you will hear of us on College Aid Pro webinars. It's not just about getting in for most families, but it's also about, being responsible with, how you're paying and how much it's costing. So we think of this in terms of offensive defense, just like in sports. For most sports, you need offense and defense to win. Shout out to Oklahoma City if we have any fans here for winning an NBA championship, or Florida Panthers for winning that. Both teams good on offense and defense. But from a missions perspective, this year, 2025, 26, the biggest trend is holistic review. Yes, always test scores and your grades, your GPA are very important. They matter very much, but so do what you're involved in, the extracurriculars, your essays, and how well the student really tells their story. Schools are also hitting how they view AP honors courseworks and letters of recommendation, those qualitative parts of the student's application. And a lot of schools, majority of schools, are still test optional, since COVID, many of them went there during that time. Some schools like MIT, like Georgetown, are sticking with test required policies. So it's critical to know where those schools, fall on your list. From a scholarship standpoint, the majority of money that most families, not all, but most will see, like the big money will come from the institutions, meaning from, the colleges themselves, not necessarily private scholarships. So we need to know, where will your child be a strong candidate for merit aid? And a lot of families, may not qualify for need-based aid. So this becomes, your discount strategy and very important piece of the process. The defense, so the things you're seeing there to the left, the defensive strategy is really all about the hard measurables, right? So these are things that you need to get to really get your foot in the door, especially if it's a target or a reach school. Like, you're going to need the solid grades, the solid scores potentially, to get a good look from the college admissions officers. Starting with the GPA, this is that cumulative GPA that you'll put on the common application. A lot of big state schools will just look at that GPA and that's it. All right. And they want to see it at a certain point to review you. Other schools will look really closely at sophomore and junior year classes and final grades. And really looking at that transcript, at those most recent grades, and not just the GPA, but how you've done over those 2 or 3 years in high school. Maybe you start off slow as a freshman, and maybe there's a reason for that, and you can write about that in your college application. But sophomore year, you did better, and junior year was your best. That tells a story, and that's something that admission counselors are looking at. The test scores, all right, SAT, ACT, unless you're applying for uh, UC schools in California, majority of colleges will accept your test scores. Some require it now. Going back to that, and it's important for most students to take SAT 2 times or ACT 2 times, and it will be part of this journey for you. Course rigor goes in the GPA. You know, I get asked this question all the time, like, what's better, to have a bunch of APs and have maybe a few Bs on there, or no APs and straight A's? And the answer with most college admissions questions is that it depends. But if you're applying to a highly selective college and you have straight A's, but they know that your school offers an abundance of APs and you've taken none, it's going to be hard to get into that school for a highly selective school. So you need to obviously be able to balance that and make sure that you're taking courses within your ability to still do well. But rigor is definitely something you should be thinking about, especially as an underclassman. Finally, class rank is also something that can play a factor, especially for our Texas families here. You know all about the top 6-7% it may be for automatic admission. Most, not most, but a lot of schools do not rank, and that won't be an issue for you across the country. But those that do, the higher you are ranked, the better. So these are really on the left are your checklist items. Again, at most public big state universities where they just have so many applications, these numbers often determine whether your application is really reviewed and moved on. If you don't meet those benchmarks, it's often hard to continue to play the game with their college admissions process. But this is just the beginning, especially when it comes to, again, your target and more reach schools. And that brings us to the offensive part of this. And the offensive strategy is really where the real admission strategy and scholarship leverage happens. This is how you separate yourself from thousands of other students who may have similar grades and scores. This includes demonstrated interest. I actually was talking to a parent today about that. They're like, do I have to visit all 12 schools on my list? The answer is no. There's real implications there of cost, of time, of travel. You may not be able to visit every school, and that is okay. But it doesn't cost anything to find out who your admission rep is at that school and shoot them an email from the student saying, hey, I'm really interested in the school, had a question about this major, I'm looking forward to applying. Check mark for demonstrated interest goes into their system. It costs you nothing to go on their website. Can you hear me, Kevin? Looks like I got unstable.
Yep, I can hear you.
I'm good. Okay.
You're good.
I got an unstable thing for internet. It costs nothing to go onto the college website, find the prospective student thing that you fill out, and now you're on their email list. Check. It costs nothing to follow them on social media, which they track. Check that also for demonstrated interest. So a lot of different ways, or a virtual session on their, if they do a Q&A or virtual tours or things like that. Harvards of the world, they don't track demonstrated interest. They know you want to go if you get in. But the vast majority of schools, probably the most schools that people on this call will be applying to, will track it some way, at some level. So important to do that. The Common App activities section, where you're putting your extracurriculars, so we're past the transcript, we're past the scores, what has the student done for, 3 years. What I'll say here, I don't want to take too much time on this, but let's make them, put them in the right order with the right keywords that align with your overall story and your accomplishments. You only have 150 characters to describe an activity. So you really want to be, cognizant of what you're writing, how you're saying it. And there really is a right and wrong here. And it varies depending on the school, maybe the major that you're applying to, the personal strengths, all of that. 2 really quick pieces of advice. You get 10 activities. You don't need to put in 10. It very much is, I know it's a cliche, but it's very true here, quality over quantity. And I want you to imagine a mission counselor who's reading his 900th application, has had 9 cups of coffee, is tired, it's late at night, and they're reading on your, activities list, and they stop at activity 3 or 4, and they don't get through 8 and 9. What do you want to make sure they absolutely see? All right, so we want to make sure that is there, and that's important, when putting them in order. Letters of recommendation. This is an opportunity for 1 to 2 teachers to talk about, your accomplishments potentially in the classroom, but really just more about who you are as a student, as a learner. Do you love to learn? How's your work ethic? It doesn't need to be the class that you have done the best in. If you are, if you know you're going to go in engineering, yeah, it could be helpful to have a math and maybe a physics teacher to write the letter recommendation. If you know you want to go an English major, really great to have an English teacher. But definitely someone that knows you and you've done well, you presented yourself well in the classroom. Every student here will have their guidance counselor at their school write a counselor letter recommendation. That's much more of a holistic view of who you are as a person, a student, individual. Piece of advice here, if they have you do brag sheets, both parents and students, put a lot of work into that, because counselors, I know because I was one, will use some of what you put into their own letter. So make sure you put a lot of work into that. And then finally, the essay. This really is your human moment. It's your chance to share your story, and really showcase your voice. It's the only opportunity. The essay, and if the schools have supplemental essays, that time too, for the admission counselor, who's usually much closer in age to you, the student, as opposed to the parents, to get a sense of how you may be on campus. So super important. You have 650 words max. That's a page, page and a half, 4 or 5 paragraphs. It doesn't need to be about, finding a cure for some incurable disease, or climbing some crazy mountain. It can be about anything. It can be about fishing, your favorite book, whatever. But as long as there's detail and you own that story and you come to life, and they read it and like, oh, I got a sense of who Kevin is. That's great. All right, let's move on. Let's go through these grades here. We'll try to go quick here, give my buddy Kevin plenty of time to talk. But I think we have very few rising ninth graders. For those on here, congrats for being here, or parents. If it's your first, high school is starting soon. It should be a time to celebrate your students. And before you know it, they will be a rising 12th graders. So buckle up, because the ride will go quickly here. But ninth grade, it might seem early, to be here, but this is when habits and identities start forming. For these students, you really want to focus on exposure, trying new activities, building strong, foundational study skills, develop, a love of learning, encourage exploration, whether it's coding schools, robotics, writing workshops, whatever may spark interest. I always say, don't even think about college until at least, halfway through sophomore year, end of sophomore year. Freshman year, get involved, have fun, see what you love. We're not doing test prep. We're not pressuring for the perfect GPA. We're starting to think about, the high school roadmap. What kind of learner are you? What type of environment do you thrive in? And these answers really, they're going to inform everything down the road. Use this year to build, independence and responsibility. And start saving time, and compound interest are really your best friend. And ninth grade is all about foundation building. Okay, it's the start of the high school transcript, yes, but it's also when students begin discovering what you all care about, how you learn, and who they want to be. So what do we want to focus on? I knew I threw a lot at you right now. Academics, start strong. Okay, college, I said before, they love upward trends, but they also notice consistency. Develop good study habits now. Okay, it will pay off. Explore your interests, try new clubs, volunteer locally, pick up a hobby. It's okay not to have your thing yet. Okay, but this is the year to explore broadly. Summer, after ninth grade, or now, camps, programs, travel, jobs, whatever, enrichment classes, anything that shows curiosity, and good use of the summer. We don't want to just be sitting around playing video games. And character and confidence. This is when students become forming the identity that will shape their personal statements or recommendations and encourage kindness, self-awareness, time management. What not to stress: test prep, perfect grades, or crafting the perfect resume. It's too early right now. All right. What matters is exploration and building those healthy habits. Let's go 10th grade. All right. I know we got some class of, what was that, 26, 28 on here. So by 10th grade, students, should be defining themselves a bit more clearly. This is a year for growth. Again, maybe the rigor increase. Maybe this is their first chance to take an AP class. Go for it if you can. Grades start to matter a bit more. I mentioned that before, like the UC system, which is one of the bigger state school systems in our country, they only look at sophomore and junior classes and final grades. Okay. So it matters. Extracurriculars should be moving from sampling to committing. Okay. What are the 2 or 3 areas that you might want to grow into? This is also a great, year to take your first PSAT. There's no pressure. Just, take it. I tell them, don't prep for the 10th grade PSAT. There could be a reason to prep for the 11th grade, which I'll say in a minute, but for 10th grade, just do your best. And it can give you a sense of where you need to focus more on to get a better score down the road when it could matter. You could also try ACT as well. And a lot of schools will do the practice ACT, something to look at as well. You can take a free ACT on their website also, just so you know, practice ACT. Also key for this year, summer planning. Summer is the hidden gem in the admissions process. Think about programs, jobs, volunteer opportunities, independent projects. These stories often become the foundation potentially of an essay later on, or just your entire profile for your application. So again, we're going to start narrowing the focus here in our key priorities. Academic rigor. Okay, you did really well in 9th grade. Let's bump up a little bit 10th grade where appropriate. And remember, balance is key. Clubs and commitments, try to deepen the involvement. Instead of 10 clubs, maybe 2 or 3 that really matter. Thinking about the SAT, ACT, take a practice one, see how we do. And again, summer planning, continue to build off that. Think about programs that match, really what you're starting to really enjoy in academics: STEM leadership, creative writing, etc. And it's also a good time, to start creating a college exploration mindset. We don't need a list at all, but maybe you visit school. Maybe you're going on spring break with a family down in North Carolina. Take a tour at Wake Forest or UNC or Elon or High Point. See what you like. Explore websites. Have conversations with your parents. Where did they go to school? What did they like about it? Where does cousin Johnny go? And at the end of sophomore year, going this summer, that is when now we are beginning to really turn on the switch for the college process. And we can jump to the 11th grade. All right, awesome. So everyone says, what is the most important year? All years matter because, again, for the most part, colleges are going to see all your cumulative GPA, your grades, all activities, things like that. But yes, 11th grade is really a crucial year. It is sort of mission critical. It's this, it's a very important year for admissions because it's your last full year that they're looking at when they are reviewing application. They will see what classes you're taking senior year, but they won't necessarily know how you're doing. Maybe they ask for first quarter senior year grades. But junior year is the last one they're going to get a full year. Junior year is where your teacher letter recommendations most likely will come from. It's where your test scores are going to come from. So this is a year to really lean into your rigor, your leadership, your impact. College want to see that upward trajectory in commitment. And, let's go deeper in a few areas, definitely quality over quantity. It's also when, standardized testing becomes real. And again, a lot of schools are test optional. We can go that route, but we recommend, preparing and practicing potentially for the 11th grade PSAT if you're a National Merit Scholarship, contender on that line, because there could be some scholarships connected to that. But for most students, you're really, take the PSAT again, 11th grade, see how you do. And now we're really preparing for to take the SAT or ACT 2 to 3 times throughout your junior year. I would not take it more than 3 times. Studies show that they do not go up after that. I would definitely take it at least twice because you can super score, and generally students do better, just comfort, taking it a second time. And you want to, plan ahead. There's only 6 or so test dates a year for each of the SAT and ACTs. You'll probably, a lot of students have commitments, whether it's clubs, sports, jobs. Look at the schedule ahead of time, figure it out, and make sure you sign up as soon as you can because slots fill up very soon. Okay. It's also the year that we're going to really build and eventually finalize that college list. So what kind of schools fit yourself academically, socially, financially? What do you want? You want big, small, rural, urban, suburban, East Coast, West Coast, cold, hot. And we really want to, what I love, doing myself, it's just guiding, families through this entire process, helping you figure out everything that goes into it and finding those from those 4,000, what 10 to 12 schools, are the perfect fit for you. So what matters most? Your transcript, absolutely. Junior year, the last final grade you're going to get. Your testing, your extracurricular impact, building, and then eventually finalizing that college list and beginning to visit some schools if you can, demonstrate an interest, connecting with admission counselors, and really by end of July, the hope is that you have that final list. Your essay is behind you as well. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but as a junior, you can do that now. We know, or rising senior, we know what the essay is, work on that. But a lot of this should be done by, before you even start your senior year. And this is also the year where families should begin projecting financial aid using tools like our MyCap that Kevin will get into in a minute, and see what colleges, might cost and, what are generous with aid. All right, let's go last 12th grade.
Just real quick, I want everyone to know that I'm not ignoring questions in the Q&A. I am saving all admissions questions for Joe. So I just wanted to point that out. So, there we go.
All right, last one. Then, just so everyone knows, like the flow, Kevin will be jumping on as the financial aid pro to talk about all of that, which is a essential piece of all of this. Again, everything you're seeing here, I'm talking about is really just about preparing the student to be a good applicant to get into college, but he'll dive much deeper into affording college. So our rising seniors, the vast majority on the poll, it's game time now. We have a theme here, right? I'm going offense, defense, game, all that. So it's game time. Senior year starts now. So it's end of June, not September. Should be working in the essay. Let's get this done in the next couple of weeks. There's no reason to wait on the college essay, the one essay that will go to every college. By end of July, let's have that list finalized as much as possible, or at least, a working list. You can create your Common App. There's no need to wait. Create your Common App now. Work on the 6 sections: profile, family, education, testing, activities, the writing section. You can do all that now. The last 2 days of July, the Common App will shut down and then reopen for the class of 2026, August 1st. Everything you put in the Common App section will roll over and be there. So work on it now in the summer when you have some free time. What you can't work on are the college specific questions. You can add them to the Common App now and put answers in there, but that will disappear August 1st. August 1st, we're going to begin adding the schools there, seeing what essays, if any, they have, and begin working on those applications. Really important, guys, have the balance list. I say it a lot, but 8 to 12 schools, please, please, please have a few safety schools on there that meet all the criteria that your student is looking for, because it's competitive out there. It is competitive, and we want to make sure that you have schools that we know you're going to get into, that you're happy about, that you'll potentially get a lot of money with early on. Financial aid applications also kick off. FAFSA and CSS profile, they open up October 1st. And I'm going to let Kevin get more into that. But it's also a time now where we want to start thinking about looking at scholarships. Okay. Search the schools that you're looking at their websites for what scholarships they may offer. We have that on the MyCap platform as well, if you want to do that. And, finding out other scholarships that are private ones out there that often, you may have to apply to a lot to get a little bit, but could be worth your time. And again, we actually have a search engine within MyCap where you can search for scholarships that could be right for you. So what we want to do right now, finalize your list, guys. Start the Common App early. Start it now. Draft and finish your personal statement. Make sure you have those letters of recommendation for teachers confirmed, because once September year starts, teachers are doing their thing. They're teaching. So we want to get ahead of this, make sure that they know that you need them for this part of the process. Make sure your testing is done, or at least you have a plan to take the August, September, October test. And parents, October 1st, circle it on your calendar. Finally, guys, I spit a lot. It was 30 minutes of me talking. Have fun. You're going to get into college. I've worked with 2,050 or so students over 15 years. Every one of them got into college, and I never lost one along the way. Just put some effort into it, stick to a timeline, but have some laughs. And parents, celebrate this process with your children, because for most part, it only happens once, and you've done a great job getting them to this point. With that, I'm going on mute. I'm going to hand off to Kevin, and I'm going to answer some questions in the chat.
Don't go on mute. You have to jump in wherever needed. No, really good point. I would say honestly, this process is so stressful. To your point, Joe, like anything you can do to make it less stressful, whether that's getting organized, whether that's just taking a deep breath, whether that's just kind of enjoying it all and realizing it's going to be stressful, all of that's super helpful. But let's pivot. Let's go to financial aid now. So a big starting point for families, and I'll go into my cap in a few slides from now, but a big starting point for families to figure out, well, what scholarships are students eligible for? What need-based aid do we qualify? Do we even qualify for need-based aid? Searching for colleges, right? We have all of those important data points in the software. There's a great school search in there. This is a really good starting point, and I'm actually going to type and put it in the chat so everyone knows where to go. So I just dropped it in the chat. Now you can create a free account. I'll talk about a premium account and stuff at the end, but you can create a free account, 3 schools, and you get to see your SAI. You get to look at cost projections for 3 colleges. So at least take the step to do that. Now, here are the top 10 challenges that we see families have throughout the financial aid and scholarship process. A lot of families don't understand if they will or won't qualify for need-based aid. There's a lot of families who think they won't, so they don't fill out the forms. So knowing if you are eligible or if you aren't eligible is one of the most important things that you can do to save on the cost of college. Now, we saw a lot of questions about, had a lot of questions in the Q&A about SAT scores and test scores. And that's important to know, right, what your students' test scores are and make them do as best as they possibly can on the tests, particularly for merit scholarships. But it's also good to know, just based on GPA, will they be eligible for merit scholarships? And also, what schools are going to give us merit scholarships? There's a lot of colleges out there that don't award merit. So it's important to get this all set up early on. Now, from an affordability perspective, and that first slide that was like navigating the maze, right? Financial fit was one of the components. You really should be figuring out financially, do schools work or not, before your student spends all this time and money and energy applying to colleges. You need to make sure that schools on the list are affordable. And also, are there schools that your student didn't consider that are going to be really good for your wallet that you can add to the list, maybe even for the sake of leverage on appeal? We'll talk about that later. Now, let's say that your family is going to have 2 or 3 kids in school. I worked with a family once that had 5 kids in college at the same time. That's a lot. But it's important to understand this from a planning perspective, because some colleges will give you essentially a discount for having more than 1 student in college. At the same time, some colleges won't, right? That's a big differentiator with the FAFSA and the CSS profile and a lot of public and private schools. But also, imagine having to pay 2, 3, 4, even 5 tuitions at the same time. How do you pay for it? And how do you make the most of it? All of that is super important. For any divorced or separated family on tonight's call, and we're not asking, to know who, but for any divorced or separated family, this process is naturally more complex for you. Same thing for business owners, right? The more you add to this, in terms of like business owner, divorced family, multiple parents in the household, whatever the circumstance is, it does get a little bit more complex. There's a right way and a wrong way to navigate it. So it's important early on to figure out what that right way is and what that wrong way is. Also, how can you leverage it, right? I mean, if you're in a situation, divorced or separated, maybe there's a advantageous way to fill this out. Maybe you're a business owner, maybe there's something you can do from a tax perspective to qualify for additional aid. So definitely things to consider. Now, we meet with so many families, January all the way up until May, even now, that make really costly mistakes on the financial aid forms. Someone actually asked early on, first or second question, how long does a financial aid appeal take? I just did an appeal for BU where a family accidentally reported $675,000 in investments. You can only imagine how much financial aid that cost them. We're still waiting on the outcome of the appeal, but it's going to be a huge success. So definitely avoid making mistakes on the forms. Also appealing. I've kind of touched on this a few times already, but appealing for aid, right? Spring of senior year, it's probably the most critical part of the process to make sure you're getting all the free money you possibly can get. You also need to know if you're getting a good deal. And that's what our software helps with as well, to make sure that the school is costing you what it should cost you. Now, there are many different ways to pay the college bill, loans, existing assets, etc. It's important to know what's the most advantageous way to do it and how do we leverage what we have, right? And if you do have to borrow, how do you borrow? Maybe you use a combination of loans, assets, and so forth, but getting that all planned out early on, super important. You cannot miss a deadline and you cannot skip the process. You can't skip filing the financial aid forms. You can't miss a deadline and say, oh, I'll submit the forms if my student gets into college. It doesn't work like that. You really need to get this all done. I I use November 1 as a big benchmark for everyone that I work with, just because if you get everything done by November 1, you can pretty much guarantee that you're not missing a deadline. But I know on the admissions side, Joe, there are some schools that are October 15th, particularly like Clemson, UNC Chapel Hill, maybe South Carolina for early action. So wouldn't use that November 1 deadline for that. But from a financial aid perspective, if everything's done by November 1, otherwise you need to go and you need to look at every college's website and look for the priority financial aid filing deadline. Last thing is student loans. Even the federal direct loan with the subsidized and unsubsidized portion could be 8 loans over the 4 years. How do you manage all this, right? That's just one small student loan. How do you manage many, many more over the course of college? You need to keep it organized, and most importantly, you need to keep it simple. And then how do you know what loan is best for your family? Right? How do you know you're getting a good interest rate? How do you know that your family shouldn't borrow privately over the Parent Plus loan or from a different state? There's many things to consider, but you can really figure all of this stuff out early on, not when you get the bill, but ahead of time. So you've got a game plan in place. Now, the basics of financial aid, right? So we've got need-based grants. That's free money based on your FAFSA or your CSS profile. We have merit scholarships, which are totally based on your students' academics, think test scores and GPA. And then we have self-help. Now, self-help is, I don't really consider financial aid. It's loans, which you have to pay back plus interest, or it's work study, which you have to work for, or sorry, your student has to work for. But that is considered financial aid by the colleges, and it is a type of financial aid. So all of this adds up to, how do you discount college, right? How do you get a discount off the sticker price and the full cost? Through a combination of all of these things, through one of these things, through, 2, 3. But this is how you get discounts on college, and this is what financial aid is. Now, how do you know if you're going to be eligible for financial aid? Well, one of the first things when you create a MyCap account, it tells you your SAI, right? Your SAI is your student aid index. And to know if you're eligible or not, you would take the cost, the full sticker price of a college, you would subtract your student aid index, and then that equals how much financial need your family qualifies for. So if a college costs $80,000 and your SAI, your student aid index, is $40,000, you qualify for $40,000 of need. Now, the bigger question, how much does the school meet? So how much of your $40,000 in need does the school actually award? Is it 50%? Is it 100%? Is it somewhere in between? But these are all things that you want to find out up front, and this is all part of the software. Now, in terms of your SAI, so what factors into this number, and what, how does it actually come up? What's the formula? Well, first off, in terms of assets, It's all of your assets, everything but retirement accounts. So 401k, right? That's a big one. 403b, IRA, or even a Roth IRA, right? All of that doesn't count. Qualified annuities, life insurance, none of that counts. What does count are going to be things like your checking account, savings account, non-retirement investments, college savings plans. All of those things count. Now, parent assets versus student assets, it's important to understand the percentage that each are factored. Parental assets are factored at 5.64%. That means that if you have 100 grand, it increases your SAI by $5,640. That's very different from student assets. Student assets are counted at 20%. So if your student has $10,000, that increases your SAI by $2,000. So very important to understand the big difference. Grandparent 529s, this is one of like the rules from 2024. Grandparent 529s aren't included anywhere anymore, right? So they used to be counted as untaxed income, but now they're not counted at all. So that's a really big planning opportunity. In addition to that, sibling 529s are no longer included on the FAFSA. So that means that if you have 150,000 in 529s and you have 3 kids and 50,000 is just for the student whose form you're filing, you only report 50,000. You don't report 150,000. UGMA and UTMA accounts, these are custodial accounts. These are considered student accounts. They're essentially like a type of trust. They're difficult, but there's usually a planning opportunity to try and figure out, can this money be moved? Should it be moved? All the way up until the day you file the form. Parent-owned 529s are reported as parental assets. So parent-owned 529s, even if the student's the beneficiary, which is how it should be set up, they're reported as your asset as the parent. And then jointly owned account. So let's say that there's a jointly owned account in terms of like your student has a joint savings account with you. You can report that as your asset, right? I see nothing wrong with that. Now, in terms of real estate, the primary residence, the residence you live in, is excluded from the FAFSA, right? It is included on the CSS profile, but I'm not going to get into that. Now, if you own additional properties above and beyond your primary residence, whether it be a vacation home, whether it be a rental, investment property, doesn't matter. The equity in those properties is what counts. And it counts as an investment on the financial aid forms. So that's important to keep in mind. Now, the day you file the financial aid forms is when the assets are supposed to, like, those numbers are supposed to be accurate as of the day you file. But just do your best, right? Do your best. Try to keep it as stress-free as possible, as I said. Now, in terms of income, this confuses, I think, everyone. Income is based on the prior year. But the easier way to think about this is, hey, my student's graduating in 2026. I'm going to subtract 2. That means that 2024 is going to be my base tax year. 27 would be 25. 28 would be 26. So it's year of high school graduation minus 2 is how you easily get to that. And that's the base year, but you have to do the forms every year. Now, the main driving factor behind your SAI is your adjusted gross income, line 11. That's counted at the highest percentage. That's the biggest factor in what makes up your SAI. I didn't even see that bullet, and that's exactly what I said. And then student income. So this number, I apologize, this number is actually a year old. The correct income allowance is $11,510 for the 25-26 school year. And what that means is your student can make up to $11,510 before it's counted towards your SAI. Every dollar above and beyond that 11,510 is assessed at 50 cents on the dollar. So if you make another $5,000 above and beyond that, or sorry, your student makes another $5,000 above and beyond that, that increases your SAI by half, up to $2,500. So that's important to keep in mind, and that's important for planning, especially if you qualify for a lot of need-based aid. On the CSS profile, there really is no income protection allowance. All right, so after this slide, I'm going to dive into MyCap so everyone can take a peek. We just launched 2.0 a few weeks ago, so I'm excited to show it. But this is a common question. What if I don't qualify for need-based aid? So this is normal, right? I mean, there's a lot of families who don't qualify for any need-based aid. I'd say probably like somewhere around half of the families we work with don't qualify for any need-based aid, but they're going to focus on merit or value. And what I mean by that is they're going to figure out where their students are going to be eligible for scholarships. They're also still going to do the FAFSA and the CSS profile because they understand that that is important for the appeals process. That's important for the federal direct loan, but that's also important at many schools for merit scholarships. Also, side note, I had a family call me today about NYU because their student now qualifies for need-based aid, but that's a school where if you don't fill out the forms the first year, you can't go back, right? So there's a million reasons to do the FAFSA and the CSS profile. There's really no reason except your time not to do them. Now, all of this is on a school-by-school basis, and we have merit scholarship projections in the software. But regardless of what you've heard from your neighbor, your friend, doesn't matter, that they got a big scholarship from an Ivy League school. Ivy League schools don't give merit scholarships. No student gets a merit scholarship from an Ivy. No student gets a merit scholarship from an SCAC school. Some of the public flagship universities don't give any merit scholarships or need-based aid, right? So it's important to keep that in mind because if your family doesn't qualify for need-based aid, need-based aid, and you don't want to pay 80, 90, 100 grand a year, you have to look elsewhere and avoid the schools that don't award any merit scholarships. And then one of the strategies we talk about with families is it makes sense to apply to a competing college, even on the Ivy level, for not for merit scholarships, but for need-based aid. But it makes sense to apply to a competing college for leverage in the appeals process. Now, I want to spend a minute, as long as I'm still logged in, I am, going into our software so everyone can take a peek. And one of the first things I want to show everyone, just briefly, is the information that you have to put in. We don't ask all of this to be annoying or anything like that. We ask all of these questions, student SAT score, GPA, so we can project merit scholarships. We ask, family circumstances and tax information so we can project need-based financial aid, including investments and home equity, you name it. And then we also ask for your college budget for your own sake, right? So you can figure out, is this college affordable for me or no? But so you can take a look. Once you enter all of that information in, you're going to get your SAI. And you're going to notice you have a few different SAIs. The federal SAI is based on the FAFSA. The institutional SAI is based on the CSS profile. The reason there's a range here with the institutional SAI is because of home equity. Some colleges count it, some don't. We show you both numbers. But so you can see here, we've got a to-do list. And for anyone who's our premium members, you're going to get access to our members only webinars every other Thursday. You'll see all of our upcoming events. You'll also have access to the CAP Academy, which is a huge resource in terms of like a line by lines for many, many things, office hours to ask some questions, huge resource. We've got a private scholarship search database, and then we've got our community, our Facebook group. But you can see here the student school list, and this is a hypothetical account. We've got American, we've got BC, and we're seeing live, right, real-time net cost projections at all these schools, just based on the information that we entered. And then you can go even further in depth, right? Like, how is American getting to 55,000? Oh, sorry, I switched to BC. How is BC getting to 55,000, right? Well, we're looking at need-based aid here, right? And they're not giving really any merit scholarships aside from like post 9/11 GI Bill and ROTC and Yellow Ribbon. And is it affordable for our family? Caution means no. So you want to keep that in mind too, from an affordability perspective. You can see this list here. Most of these are caution. That's a problem. And then also you'll be able to upload your award letters and it'll tell you if there's the opportunity to appeal or no. If it's a fair award, what we think in terms of your chances on appealing. And then ultimately, how are you going to pay, right? What's our funding gap? How are we actually going to make this work? And are we going to use loans, right? Federal direct subsidized loan, unsubsidized. Maybe are we going to use a HELOC, so home equity line of credit? All of this stuff is right in the software. Let me go back here for 2 seconds. And then you also have a school search, right? So Joe in the beginning talked about you kind of want to look for in schools. well, maybe we're gonna look by four-year institution with medium to large size, private. You know what? Yeah, we'll do private. Why not? We'll do less than 5,000. We'll do location. Let's just do a region. We'll do New England. No, well, I was gonna ask for this, but I'm too far in. We'll do net cost. Let's say it's gonna cost us less than 55,000 a year, and I'm just gonna apply this now so we can see all this come up. But right, so we've got a few options here. The less filters you put in, obviously, the more options you're gonna have. And then in addition to that, we've got our affordability. You don't want all the schools to be, caution and highly selective. You want to have a good blend across this graph here. And, ideal from a cost perspective with maybe a competitive or selective acceptance, that would be great. But there's none on this student's list that fit into that category. Bottom right versus top left. You need to have a balance in between. For the financial aid forms, premium members get a line by line. You do not get many of these features I'm talking about on the free account, but you get some. Premium members get a line by line of the FAFSA and the CSS profile. And here's the award comparison. So this shows you all of the awards. Admittedly, I do not have any awards uploaded to this fake account. And then how to pay the bill, we already talked about. And then how to borrow, right? We've got our process. We've got some loans in here. You can see here, pick the college, you go through, confirm, and then what are we going to do? What's our process to borrow, right? We're going to start with Ascent, and then we're going to look elsewhere. But all of this stuff's in here, and I'll talk in a few minutes about how to leverage this. Let me jump back. Are we missing a lot of questions on the financial aid side?
A few, yeah, but
I'll get to some at the end.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay, so the FAFSA. Someone asked, what's October 1st? That's the day the FAFSA goes live. That's the day the CSS profile goes live. I already talked about the income. It's the prior year, high school graduation year, -2. Now, for the FAFSA, it's the custodial parent is typically the parent who files the form, because the real indicator of who should file the FAFSA is the parent who provides the most support. And just from what we see, typically if the student's living with the parent, most of the time they're providing the most support, but that could obviously be a little bit different based on certain circumstances. If you haven't already, go create your account. You have to create a parent account and a student account, studentaid.gov. All right, now the CSS profile. This is the tricky one. And I'm not saying that lightly. It's definitely a beast. They ask a lot of questions and there's a lot of room for mistake. It goes live to October 1. Now, somewhere around 250 colleges require this additional financial aid form. It's in addition to the FAFSA. Many of the schools, not all, but many of the schools that use the CSS profile treat home equity as a liquid asset. So they literally take the equity in your house and they say, we're going to treat that the exact same way as your checking account. It's not fair. That's something that we often address on appeal. Now, for divorced and separated families, another tricky part here, there's a non-custodial profile. That means that the non-custodial parent also has to fill out a CSS profile. Business owners, there's a lot more in terms of questions, right? I mean, in terms of business information, they're going to ask you everything from business valuation to business tax information. So oftentimes there's room for error there. The non-custodial waiver is something that could be used to get that non-custodial profile waived. It's not light in terms of the reasoning. No financial support, no contact or abuse. So it's very serious in terms of what could actually get that waived. But for some families, you can absolutely use that. And that's something that has to be submitted to each school and evaluated from school to school. It's way more complex, as I've said, way more room for error. Definitely takes a longer time. So if your students applying to CSS profile schools, there's usually opportunity for us to help. I'll explain how we can do that later on. And to get into the CSS profile, it's a little bit different than the FAFSA. To get into the CSS profile, you would log in with your student's credentials from College Board. All right, now how to appeal for the best possible package. I would say appeals are probably like my favorite part of the process, but also something everyone asks us about. When you're appealing, you're not negotiating, you're not haggling a used car. right? What you're doing is you're bringing reasoning, whether it be for merit or for need, as to why you deserve more money. And you are going to be telling a story in some ways, right? You are putting this in front of a financial aid counselor or financial aid committee. So it has to be compelling. You got to share your story. You can sometimes ask for a specific amount of aid if you know how much you deserve, right? If you know, hey, I should have gotten another $5,000, ask for it. If you're going to be using leverage as one of the reasons, you got to show those offers. You can't just say, hey, we got 20 grand from another school. There's a lot of things that happen in life, including expenses that are not on your tax returns. There you go. You can share those. Be persistent, right? Doesn't hurt to follow up. Also, your students should be involved, particularly on the merit side. And the enrollment deposit, usually the enrollment deposit is a really good indicator that, hey, it doesn't always eliminate it, but it does, I think, take a little bit of leverage away. I've done plenty of appeals after students have committed, but it doesn't feel the same, to be quite honest. There doesn't feel like there's any real desperation on the side of the school or any real need to help. So you definitely want to try and get all this done before you pay the deposit, but it's not always possible. All right, I think we did really, really good on time. I thought we were going to go over, but guess what? Pretty good on time. So I want to share a few things here. And let me drop some of this in the chat. All right. No, I didn't see the question tonight. Will a recording be shared? We get that question all the time. And the answer to that is yes, a recording will be shared. So a couple of things. One, as a thank you for joining us tonight, we are going to offer a free 15-minute session for anyone who books by midnight tonight. Another stipulation on that is that it has to be booked by July 1st because we have some changes coming in terms of pricing. We want to meet with everyone by July 1st and give them the chance to talk through their situation with us. So you'll see there's no availability past July 1st, but there's plenty of availability, including on Saturday, between now and then. So please book your meeting right away and book it before July 1st. What will happen during that meeting is one, we'll tell you if you're eligible for financial aid or if you're not. Two, we'll tell you some strategies in terms of how to maximize this process. But I think what's most important, and this is something that we do for everyone, we tell you the best way to navigate this, the schools that you should be looking at, types of schools. So absolutely meet with us.
And I would say also a few lucky contestants may even be able to work with us full time if they want.
And that's this. Now, another thing too with this is we are increasing our pricing on July 1st. So take the opportunity to meet with us. And if you are interested in having us help you with this process, we have many, many different ways we can work with families, including on the financial aid, including on the admission side, or both. Take the opportunity to meet with us right away. And in terms of this, we really do help you navigate this and help you save money, time, you name it, on all parts of the process. But this is something we can go more in detail on during the meeting if you want. Not every family is a great fit for us, right? There are some circumstances where we'll tell you, hey, during this session, we'll tell you, hey, we think the best approach for your family is our DIY approach, right? You're in a really good position. We know that you're kind of on the right track, and we have our premium membership, our members only workshops, our office hours, all that stuff for $5 a month, literally for less than the cup of I spend like $8 a day on coffee in terms of a cup of coffee from Starbucks, less than the cup of coffee for the entire month. You get access to all of that. Really great tool. And for some families, this is absolutely the right and the only approach. For some families, it's going to be having us help big picture. Another thing too, that's really, really cool. Oh, by the way, sorry, Matt told me to emphasize this, and I knew this was happening. When we launched 2.0, we launched this special $4.99 a month pricing. Sign up now to lock it in. We are not going to always keep this at that less than a cup of coffee for the entire month price. So sign up now so you lock that in.
And you can cancel at any point.
Yeah,
just
we're really lenient on cancellations. In terms of this scholarship, we are offering a parent scholarship. You heard that right. I really don't know of anyone else who's doing. Maybe there's one other, but I don't know of anyone else who's doing a parent scholarship. $1,000 to pay for college. All you have to do is you just enter now, basic info. That's it, right? And you're automatically entered.
But let's be serious, Kevin. Even if you win, I was a great parent. I've spent a lot of money on my kid. I want to spend this on myself. It's your money.
Oh yeah, we don't ask for
You do
proof.
whatever you want. And I have an 8-year-old. Kevin, can I apply for this?
We don't ask for proof.
Okay, great. Good to know.
I mean, so we're a little different than some of the other. But I mean, that's
Yeah.
a whole other thing. Is do you report scholarships? Do you not? We don't have time for that
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's that. We had a question: what is the cost of our program? Meet with us. Each program has a different cost, and really depends on what's the best fit for your family. But just take the time, meet with us, 15 minutes, and maybe we don't even think you're a good fit for the program. We'll tell you. We'll tell you, hey, this is the way that you guys should approach it, with or without us.
And Craig, I'll tell you, I've worked at other private companies, that charge 10, 15, $20,000 a year. We're nowhere near that. We are fair, and we want to just make sure we're helping families, at a fair price. So
I know our prices are going up, I think $500 on July 1st, which is why we wanted to meet with everyone as soon as possible. Now, I think that we're kind of out of time. I feel bad for anyone who asked a question in the Q&A about financial aid that I did not get to, but all I would say is just meet with us, right? Grab 15 minutes. You're going to meet with myself, Joe. Primarily, we also have, so everyone could get a meeting before July 1st. We had 2 other team members step in. Our buddy Jason Sloan and our other buddy out in the Chicago area, Dan Maga. So you'll have the opportunity to meet with one of the 4 of us, and I'll tell you, you're going to be in good hands. Anything you want to add to this, Joe?
Craig just asked how to sign up. So was the links in the chat?
Yeah, so that link's in the chat. Let me drop it again here for everyone.
Yeah, Craig, you should be able just to
Click on the
sign
link
up
and
for
book a
that
time.
there. If you click on the link.
And you'll see there's plenty of times available. So click on the link now, book a time. But anything else you want to add to this? Joe, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh.
Yep. I'm here.
Anything you want to add before we go?
It's 103 degrees here. My AC's down. I think my internet's about to go down next. So it's a good thing we're at time.
Oh my God. I agree. But all right, everyone. Thank you for watching us. We hope you enjoyed. We really do try to do our best for you guys. Look forward to seeing whoever meets with us on the 15-minute meetings, and have a great night and stay cool.